The Wizard of Quantum by Johann Ortel. Chapter 1, a classic opening. The morning of Thanksgiving 2019 dawned cold and wet in Allentown. A white Jeep Cherokee turned into the crowded parking lot of a local supermarket, its tires splashing through puddles on the slick pavement. In the driver's seat, Susan, a dark-haired woman in her early 30s, listened intently to the radio as she searched for a parking spot. Exit 57 off I-75 West is closed due to snowfall, the radio announced in a stern tone. Authorities are urging residents to stay off the road as they work to clear the snow. Her 9-year-old son, Little Massimo, sat in the back seat, his curly hair framing a face filled with quiet anticipation. Susan glanced in the rearview mirror, clearly concerned. "I hope your grandpa makes it in safely before they close more roads." Little Massimo hesitated before asking his question. "I like it when Grandpa visits, but why can't I come with you?" After a moment of searching, Susan found a parking spot, pulled in, and turned off the engine. "It's going to be a busy couple of days in L.A. We'll be back before you know it, okay?" she reassured him. Little Massimo mumbled, "I guess so?" They both exited the vehicle and hurried into the supermarket to escape the biting cold. Inside, the store bustled with last-minute shoppers, but among them lurked a watcher. His gaze never left Susan and her son as they grabbed a shopping trolley and moved down one of the far-end aisles. The watcher followed in unison, mirroring their every movement with unsettling precision. "Let's make like a banana and," Susan began, her tone playful. "Split," Little Massimo finished, smiling up at her. "Please get the rolls and make sure they're warm and fresh," Susan instructed. "And be careful, there are monsters out there," she said with a playful growl. "Sure, Mom," Little Massimo replied, eager to help. As the boy went off on his task, the watcher moved in closer, his eyes fixed on Susan, his movements calculated. Susan navigated the aisles, her focus split between her shopping list and the items on the shelves. "Okay, let me grab the turkey first," she muttered, her eyes scanning the list. Distracted, she turned a corner and bumped into a stranger, her shopping list slipping from her fingers. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Susan exclaimed, flustered. "No need to be," he said, his voice smooth and deep, with a hint of something recognizable. The stranger, a tall man in his late 30s with a calm demeanor, bent down and retrieved her list, his fingers lightly brushing against hers as he handed it back. Susan hesitated, her gaze locking with his. There was something about him, an elusive familiarity that tugged at her memory. "Do I know you from somewhere?" she asked, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "You seem so familiar." The man shook his head slightly, a small smile playing on his lips. "I doubt it. I'm just passing through, waiting for the roads to open." Susan's thoughts raced. "When I was young, my father had a friend who looked like you. We called him Uncle Marcus." The man's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "Marcus? And your father?" "Massimo Silva," she replied. The man's eyes widened ever so slightly. "Massimo Silva? Like the Massimo Silva from the Silva Bullet?" he asked. Susan nodded, her curiosity deepening. "Yes, but you can't be." The man smiled warmly. "No, your Marcus is my father. He shared the stories, the magic." Susan stared at him, trying to reconcile the familiarity with the years that had passed. His beard, streaked with dark and gray strands, his old-school demeanor resonating in his voice. Even the way he gestured, his mannerisms, all so much like the Uncle Marcus she remembered. "Are you okay?" the man asked, noticing her dazed expression. "It must have been over 20 years ago," Susan said. "And my memory is a bit foggy," she added, "but your resemblance to your father is incredible." "I get that a lot. We share a face and a name. I'm also Marcus," he replied, extending his hand. Susan took his hand, her grip lingering for a moment. "I'm Susan," she said softly. Just then, Little Massimo returned, clutching a bag of fresh rolls. "Got the rolls, Mom," he announced proudly. Susan let go of Marcus's hand, quickly introducing them. "This is Little Massimo, my son, and this is Marcus." Marcus smiled down at the boy and extended his hand. As their hands met, a sudden blue spark made them both jerk back. "What's up with the static?" Marcus asked, rubbing his hand. Little Massimo, always eager to explain, answered, "Friction between the floor and the trolley wheels causes a buildup of charge. The charge gets discharged through our bodies, but it's strange." "Strange?" Marcus asked, intrigued. "How so?" "Neither of us has a trolley," Little Massimo pointed out, his brow furrowed in thought. Marcus looked at Susan, impressed. "Your son has a gift." "We're all just trying to keep up," Susan replied with a modest smile. Marcus nodded. "It's been a pleasure meeting both of you. Please send my regards to your father, and be safe on the roads." They shook hands once more before parting ways. Susan and little Massimo continued down the aisle while Marcus headed toward the exit. He briefly stopped at a kiosk for a coffee, taking a moment to collect his thoughts as a smile tugged at the corners of his lips. As Susan and little Massimo returned to their car, she noticed Marcus in his vehicle across the lot, sipping coffee. While loading groceries into her car, an idea lingered in her mind, gently nudged by an urge prompting her to act. "Get into the car, lock the doors. I'll be right back," she said with a nervous smile, closing the door behind little Massimo before making her way across the lot. She approached Marcus's car and gently tapped on the window. He rolled it down, lowering the radio's volume. "Hi, it's me again," Susan began, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I was hoping you'd join us for dinner tonight. I'm sure you and my dad will have lots of stories to share." Marcus hesitated. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to impose. I'm sure the roads will be cleared soon." "Please, I insist," Susan urged, "and I doubt the roads will be cleared tonight, so we'll see you later, say around 6? Marcus smiled, accepting the gesture. "Thank you, Susan. You're very kind." "Great. My dad is going to be so excited to meet you." "It's going to be interesting," Marcus replied, his tone hinting at more than just a casual dinner. As Susan walked back to her car, she couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter was anything but random. Marcus's presence stirred long-buried memories, leaving her with a nervous excitement about what the evening might hold.